What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Zenless Zone Zero video. Alright guys, we are going to do a quick preliminary, I want to make the keyword out there, preliminary 48-hour review of the game. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about it. You guys want to know how I feel, what the honest truth is about this game. So I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on it. We're going to do the pros and the cons of everything that is Zenless Zone Zero, whether it's worth playing at the end of it, and I'm going to give you guys my honest feedback on the game and where it kind of falls flat and where it does things really, really well. So let's talk about the pros before we do anything else. Okay, so first off, character design. I personally am a big fan of the character design. Now, a lot of you guys may not be a fan of the character design, but I love characters like Ellen, Lycan, Sukaku, Grace, Rina, you name it. Like, all these characters look phenomenal. The actual world looks very colorful. There's a lot of graffiti. It fits the mold really, really well and plays phenomenally. Okay, so character design wise, I think everyone's unique. I like the factions. I like that every faction has a certain appeal, certain design. Like, for example, the Belobog's all construction workers. You can tell they're all construction workers. I like the faction with all the maids, for example, like Ellen, Rina, etc. And all the personalities also mesh really, really well. There's always some comedy. There's always a serious character, and it seems like they've done a really good job meshing out the various different personalities and characters with the factions and made them look like they're unified. So it really does feel good when you are using the various factions together versus using them apart, right? So I think character design wise, this game does a good job. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys out there that don't agree because you don't like the lolly look. There's a lot of kids in this game, and it's a little bit weird because you have a lot of kids in this game, but then you have a lot of characters who have massive boobs. The jiggle effects and the physics in this game are phenomenal, and so it's a little bit of like a weird dynamic where you have like a lot of different characters, and you're like, what is going on here? Why are there kids? And then there's like adults with massive boobs and massive butts. Yeah. So that's a little weird, I have to admit. But I mean, it's catering to, I guess, various different audiences. I'm just confused who the real audience catering was in regards to actually designing these characters. So anyways, nonetheless, character design I'm a big fan of. Some of you guys might not agree with that. Again, I understand that it's not ever going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. It's not meant to be. I think this game is designed to purposely take care of a crowd of people who play gachas and action RPGs. Speaking of a crowd of people who play gachas and RPGs, now I am personally, you guys probably know this about me by now if you've been watching my content for quite some time, I'm a huge fan of action RPG games. I've literally played probably every action RPG under the sun at this point. When it comes down to mobile games especially, we're talking about Punishing Gray Raven, Tower of Fantasy, Genshin Impact, One Punch Man World, SLA, WoWA, etc. I'll be honest, the combat system is by far, I'd say, to me, one of the most perfected combat systems out there. I cannot stress how good the system actually, like how well they've done it, like built the system. It's phenomenal. And I think that's one of the problems with this game. They came out with it being a combat-oriented game, and yet we barely get a chance to enjoy the combat, which I think is a problem. They've highlighted it as a combat-oriented game. They've mentioned that it's combat-oriented and that it's all about the combat, but yet we get very little of combat. For the most part, in TV mode, for example, here, you'll get combat when you see a mob, or you fight a boss, or at the end of it, or you'll go into combat mode, which very seldom has anything you can do once you finish it, and that in itself is a big issue, right? So I think overall, they've done a fantastic job in regards to building a world that, encompasses so much story and character, but they've done it in the wrong way. You guys, the devs, should have put the combat first, because the combat literally is one of the best combat systems I've ever played in my life. Like, literally. And again, I've given you guys my credentials. You guys can go check out my channel. I know all about combat systems, and this is one of the best, if not the best, combat systems I've played. We're talking about definitely better than WoW, in my opinion, and I would say very close to SLA, probably on par, if not even a little bit better. So definitely that for sure too. So those are some of the big pros. Now, I will say this. They are trying their best to appeal to the storyline a little bit more than most other games. They're trying, but I think the storyline is a little bit of a failure at the moment. So I think overall, they should have focused more on less story and more on combat. But I understand, like, a lot of companies now are attempting to make sure that you know, people do care about the characters, about the lore, about the stories. Like Honkai Star Rail, again, does a really, really good job putting a good storyline together. I think Genshin Impact did a decent job. SLA, of course, does a really good job because it follows the manhwa, but I think they're trying a little too hard here, and it's showing. And in my opinion, they kind of fall flat. Now, another really good thing to notice as well, too, about the game, I got an A there, damn it, I got to go back and do this, is the various different modes. There are a lot of different modes, which I like, right? So there is the exploration mode, there is the TV mode, which we'll talk more about. That in itself needs this category on its own. There's the combat mode, and then of course there's just exploration of the city itself and finding various little side quests and icons. And you can do even things like the arcade. You can do video archives, which lets you learn more about the characters. Again, you get to do some combat with them, and it's really, really well designed. I think graphically it looks phenomenal. Literally one of the most vivid graphics I've seen in a combat game, or any game as a matter of fact. Very colorful. All the palettes are in your face. The characters all look different and unique. The environments look different. You guys can see here. You can actually check out their mangas and kind of like, or their video cassettes, I guess in this case, and you know, watch them and stuff, and you can learn more about the characters and their combat system. So I think that in that regard they've done a good job. Now let's talk about a little bit about the cons. There's quite a few of them, unfortunately, right? So first off, TV mode. You guys kind of just saw me playing around with it for a little while. Now, as much as of a fan I am of puzzles, and I am a fan of puzzles, I love puzzle games, I think the TV mode is a little too much. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like, we're talking about a little way too much. There's too much TV mode. In 48 hours, I've done more TV mode than I've done combat, and I could care less about TV mode. As much as I love puzzles, and as much as they've added in the acceleration mode, it's still not enough and takes away from what matters most, again, and that is, in fact, the combat system. And I wish they did a better job of letting you choose how you want to do TV mode, whether it's like, let's just skip, go right to the end, and forget about the story and all the, you know, and all the rewards, and just do the combat, or do you want to do the puzzles and enjoy it that way? They should give us an option, and I think there's just too much TV mode. Just too much of it. And again, they're all unique in their own sense. They're all little puzzles, but I think just too much. My personal opinion on it, okay? So I think TV mode is a big fail. I think it takes away from the purpose of the game, and they could have done a better job, and I hope they do a better job of, you know, making it a system that people care about. All right? So TV mode for sure. That's the problem. Now, another thing I don't like, and this is going back to the days of playing One Punch Man, is the little town. I'm not a fan of the little town. I don't like the little town. I don't care for it. I think they try too hard here to make it worthwhile, and it's just a waste. What I would have preferred personally, to be honest, guys, is just menus to reach all of these places. Like, for example, going to the chef, going to the video shop, going to the coffee shop, going to the Godfinger arcade, etc. All those things I think they should have just done as menus. And I know you can teleport to them, but it's like, to me, these little side quests are just a waste of time. They're what I call filler content. And I'm not a big fan of filler content because, again, I think it takes away from the structure and the integrity of what they're trying to talk about this game being an incredibly powerful combat game, and majority of the time you're just exploring here, which I think is a problem. Plus, I'm not a big fan of the city. And I said this yesterday in one of my reviews. It's too claustrophobic. Like, it's too small. It's way too small. Like, look at all these little alleyways and stuff. It's just not big enough for me to care about, you know, knowing what's going on. Now, there are little cute side quests here and there to get more EXP and more currency, so I will give them that. It just doesn't feel like it's enough, though. Like, it is so far it's been fairly free-to-play friendly. I can tell because I haven't spent much on this game, and I know for a fact, being a veteran gacha player, that when I start my free-to-play account, I don't need anything special to do well in this game. The characters that they give you for free are good enough. So I will say that, but it is really, really, really low rates to get the characters you want. Like, I'm talking about really low. Like, so 0.6% I think is way too low for any game to get an SR. And not to mention, to get an SSR, or like the highest end characters. And not to mention, in this game, you require 90 pity. I think that's a little high personally. Being used to like 80, 70, 60s, 50s so far, that's kind of what I'm more accustomed to. I think 90's a little bit much. Plus, it's really hard, like, again, to get the currency. So low pull rates, low currency acquisition, and then the pity being a little high, I think is also a con. I think they really need to change that and make it a little easier to get the currency, or at least drop the pity rate to a little bit lower. All right, that's another big one too. Also, too many banners. I think it's a big one too. And there's too many banners. There's limited banners, there's bang banners, and then there's weapon banners or W engine banners, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you first start the game off and there's that many banners to choose from, it becomes a little overwhelming because you know you have to split your hard-earned currency to get yourself what you need in order to maximize the character, which it's kind of a con, right? So they could have done better with that. I think with W engines, especially with weapons, special weapons, they could have maybe done it more free-to-play friendly where you could earn it through co-op mode or fighting bosses and stuff. The bangs you can't actually buy, so that one you actually have to do earn, and there is no 50-50, which is kind of a bonus. You actually end up getting them at 100% for the one you choose, which is a good thing actually, so that's a pro for sure. But I think at the end of the day, it's important to note that the amount of banners that there are just the currency can't keep up with the banners. There's just too many of them out there right now, and that's just, again, experiencing from various different gachas that I've played and just having the experience of being a veteran gacha player. So there's that as well too. And the only other con I'd say about the game right now is that the menu is a little convoluted. There's just a lot going on. Like, you sometimes don't know where to go to start what, right? Like, look at all these menus down here. You've got like more, which is a menu in itself, and it's huge. It's pretty much your settings, right? Then there's actual settings, and there's DMs, which I don't think are necessary either. I mean, it pushes the storyline. It kind of tries to make you, feel like you're playing a game that is, I don't even know how to say, like, modern and up to date with what it's trying to do. It's trying to cater to like a more modern crowd of kids, and then there's like all these extra achievements here, which is very normal. Achievements is not a bad thing. Like, this is good to see. It's very easy to follow as well too. But this, honestly, the UI feels exactly like One Punch Man. And I will say this to you guys. I said the same complaint about One Punch Man. It was just too convoluted. There were too many menus that didn't need to be there, and it's just hard to know where to go for certain things, right? Now, the tracking system is fairly easy. Like, the red tracking is the main quest. The blue tracking is the side quest. So that's easy to follow. That's not hard to do. They've done a good job with that one. And again, it's easy to get around, right? But again, it's just like a lot of filler stuff that you don't really need to look at. Like, all the space here is mostly filler. I mean, yeah, and that's it. Like, if you want to go to the main story, for example, you have to go to this HDD thing. You can go to story, combat, explore. Like, for example, combat is great because, again, you get to do actual real combat here rather than, random shit that you don't want to do, like TV. So they do have some semblance of organization, but it's honestly not easy to find everything you're looking for on the menu screen. So I hope they do fix that up a little bit and make it cleaner. But overall, guys, so what do I feel about the game? So I played 48 hours. I'm level 24, almost level 25 right now. I've been taking my time with it, kind of enjoying what I have. I will say this. It's a great game if you're into combat and you want to do something different, and it's if you don't care about exploring too much or spending too much time on a storyline. The combat system alone is worthwhile trying. I will say that. Now, I'm not going to give you a full review yet because I would like to get to endgame, do a couple more guides, get this under my belt a little more, and then understand the game better than I do now. But I think overall right now, the combat carries the game, and because there's not too much of it, it kind of falls flat in that regard. And I think if you are not a fan of puzzles, and if you're not a fan of just like doing random shit for a game, and all you want to experience is the combat system, you're not going to be happy about this. I think Zenless Zone Zero should have promoted themselves more of a adventure RPG than an action RPG, even though action does play its biggest role. There's way more adventure in this game than there is action right now, and it could be because I'm obviously early on in the game. Level 24 is not that high up, but I can tell you now, any gacha has a honeymoon phase, right? And for most gacha games, you need to keep your player base hooked right away, because there's just too many games out there right now that will take them away from you if you don't do a good job of that, right? So for me personally, I think Zenless Zone Zero is a great game, but I think it's an incomplete game almost. I feel like they could have done a lot more quality of life features on it and got a better game out before this. But I do think it's worth trying. So overall rating in 48 hours early. This is an early review, not a full review, guys. Again, preliminary. Let's call it that. It is what it is. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Okay, and the reason why I give it a 6 out of 10 again is because the combat system is totally carrying the game on its own. The character design is phenomenal. The graphics are amazing. what it does unfortunately lack is a cohesive system to make the storyline and the puzzles engaging where people care. TV mode is not it. It's probably one of the worst systems I've ever seen, and it forces you to do it. If they made it more of an option, I think that'd be a better way to go. But because it's forcing you to do it, now it's going to cause a lot of problems. And I can hear most of people's complaints that the biggest issue they have with this game is in fact the TV mode, and it's causing a lot of people to quit. So I really hope they take that into consideration. I know they added acceleration mode into the TV mode. It's just not enough. That really is the biggest gripe. And I think the town itself is just kind of pointless. Just make it menus and reduce some of these menus as well too, to make it easier to navigate around the UI and understanding the GUI more. All right, guys, this is Payne. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. That's just my take on it right now. Remember, this is preliminary. I'll give you a real review once I get to end game, give you guys more content on this, and see what else is out there. But so far, the combat is incredible, and that alone is worthwhile trying. So if you do want to give it a go, I say go for it. Try it out. See how you feel. You might like TV mode. You might like the way it's all structured. For me personally, I think that's where it kind of falls flat. But everything else about the game, I really am enjoying. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.